What's up, fight fans? You're ringside with Roy. Today we're talking about Michael McKinson, who is returning to the ring after a 14-month layoff. He will be fighting Mohammed Sahnoun on the undercard of some social media influencers in Nigeria. Basically, it's a promotion that's put together by Amir Khan and a guy called Ezekiel Adamu of Balmoral Group. He's the CEO of Balmoral Group, and they're putting the show on the 1st of May in Lagos, Nigeria. And it's so good to see Michael McKinson back in action. I'm a massive fan of his. I remember covering him for SA Boxing Talk back in 2018. We did a little show called Under Wraps where we looked at like up and coming fighters, very similar to the Future Champ series that I'm doing at the moment. And Michael McKinson, you know, he was a bit more than like a kind of, he had double figure fights at that point, but he was really good. Like, he's such a slick boxer. He's a southpaw, so he's a massively elusive, technically sound fighter, and that's why they call him the Problem. So he's fighting on the undercard of these dudes called Carter FA and another guy called Portable. There's a between them, I think they've got like 10 million followers on social media. So if anything, it's really good for McKinson to be on a show like this, because he's going to be exposed to like a completely different audience, and there's going to be a massive audience watching this. It's a nice experience to fight in Nigeria as well, I'm sure, to go on the road. He's no stranger to being on the road. But let's talk about his opponent, Mohammed Sahnoun, or aka Goat Mido. So he is 20 to Michael McKinson's 31 years old. So he's 20, he's very young. He's got an 8-0 record, so he's like super green. He's Algerian, but he's fought like almost all his fights in Spain, mainly Torremolinos. And yeah, he's got like a 75% KO ratio, which is, you know, it's dangerous. It's like really impressive for a young man. However, like, you have to look at the caliber of his opponents, you know, like who are they, what did they do, will that power, will that translate well against McKinson, who's, you know, he's been in there with powerful guys before, you know, Chris Congo, who he beat and knocked down, and then obviously we have to think about Virgil Ortiz. He's gone very far with Virgil Ortiz. I think Virgil Ortiz said that Michael McKinson was his toughest opponent, but it's always difficult going against someone with that kind of record, and that kind of stigma attached that he's like heavy-handed. But I think McKinson's probably like wily enough and elusive enough for that not to be a problem. He's the one who would cause the problem, because he's so awkward and he's so, I'd say, irritating to fight, because you can't land cleanly on McKinson. You know, he's too slick. You know, he moves too well. But yeah, it's a tough one. It's dangerous, but he obviously has this opportunity. He's going to take it. I think what's very interesting about the two of them is, so in Goat Mido, in Sahnoun's last fight, he won the WBC World Welterweight Youth title, which is the same belt that McKinson won almost like 8-9 years ago, in 2017. So they both were WBC Youth Welterweight champions. Or, yeah, I mean, he is a WBC Youth Welterweight champion, is Sahnoun. So, you know, it's a nice comeback fight for McKinson if he can take another O. I think my money would be on McKinson to win. I just think he's got too much experience and he's too quality. And I don't know this dude, so he fought, the last guy he fought was a guy called Alberto Cabrera. So I don't know like how good he is. It's very difficult to gauge it. But obviously it's a bit worrying in terms of that KO ratio, and that youthful exuberance as well could play a part. But yeah, I think McKinson's fought on the bigger stages. You know, he fought Chris Congo in Gibraltar, where he was like massively the underdog. He's been to Italy and won. You know, he's fought in America, beat Alex Martin, who was like a really good prospect at the time, before he fought Virgil Ortiz and gave him like a really difficult fight. So he's just had like a really up and down career afterwards. You know, he lost to my countryman Tulani Mbenge in a fight, like I think it was at the Copper Box in the UK in 2014. 2024. It was a long time ago, you know, like, but like, it was a fight that you would have expected McKinson, if he really wanted to be up there with the likes of, you know, Lewis Crocker, Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, Rolly Romero, Conor Benn. You know, it's the type of fight that he would need to win, and he lost. I know he was sick, so, you know, like, no excuses, but sometimes life happens, and it's difficult in the world of a fighter because you get only so few opportunities, and it seems like McKinson has never really had that much joy when it comes to promotion. Now, he's got a 14% KO ratio in a welterweight division, which is kind of like the start division of where you really should be showing power, and you know, that's obviously not worked in his favor. I don't think, I mean, he's an awkward fighter, so, you know, for some, maybe for the casual, he might not be the most enjoyable to watch. I love watching him, but obviously I enjoy slick boxing, so, you know, and I enjoy like the chess side of boxing, so it's really enjoyable to watch fights like that. But I can understand, like, you know, and he's like a very respectful guy, you know. He doesn't have like a lot of bite, you know. He's not like a fool when it comes to the press conferences, and, you know, he just shows up and he's a gent, and, you know, if you want to give it to him, he'll give it back to you. But he doesn't really come with, like, you know, you remember like guys like Florian Mark, who are really good at selling fights, and even Chris Congo, you know, like, really good at talking trash. And it's unfortunate that, you know, that side of his personality is just not like that. Just a good guy. So, you know, it's difficult in a sport like boxing. You have to sell yourself. But yeah, I think provided he wins this, it'd be really nice to see him level up very quickly. You know, hopefully he can stick around with like that promotional outfit and get some more fights on that type of environment. But also, like, you know, it's the Eddie Hearns, the Frank Warrens, you know, the Ben Shaloms. Hopefully they can pick him up and say, okay, let's have you. Like, let's put you with the Ekoman. So Eko Esoman. Sorry, got that wrong. He's from Botswana, you know, so he's neighboring to South Africa. But, you know, or maybe like he could fight Jack Catterall, see how that goes. You know, that would be a good fight. Because a lot of people were calling for Conor Benn when he was a lot younger and when he was in the welterweight division, instead of fighting like Chris Algieri and Chris Van Heerden. You know, he should have been fighting, you know, Ekoman or someone like McKinson. You know, he would have been a great fight for him. So, you know, hopefully we can see him matched up against some quality British talent in the future, or just like top welterweights around the world. I do think he's 31. The time is now, but like, it could really be a great opportunity for him. So let's see how it goes. I'll be watching closely. As I said, big fan, and yeah, hope for the best. So let me know what you think. Subscribe for more content, like the video, and let me know if you think I'm talking a load of rubbish or if you think I'm onto something. Cool. All the best, guys. Have a good Sunday.